Something happens to women when they turn 40, but no one dares to name it. It doesn't arrive with thunder, it slips in quietly, like a shadow behind the morning light. One day she's making breakfast for the kids, folding warm laundry that still smells of sunlight, and texting her husband to buy milk on the way home. The next, she's standing in front of the mirror longer than usual, holding her phone under soft light, adjusting angles, searching for the version of herself she remembers but can't quite find. He notices the small things first. The unfamiliar perfume. The laughter that used to belong to him now drifting across a glowing phone screen. She says she's fine, just tired, just busy, but there's something in her eyes, an ache, a restlessness that wasn't there before. He stands in the kitchen doorway, watching her scroll through her phone while the coffee grows cold, and wonders, what the hell happened to my wife? It's happening everywhere. Millions of men watching the women they built their lives with steady, dependable, faithful turn into someone they can't predict anymore. It's not sudden, but it feels sudden, because nobody warned them. Nobody told them that around 40, a woman begins to quietly question every part of her identity. For years, she's been the center of her children's universe, the gravity that holds the house together. But when the noise fades, when the kids no longer need her every second, when the house grows quieter, she's left alone with her thoughts. That silence can be deafening. Biology, psychology, and society converge here in cruel harmony. The hormones that once amplified her emotions now flatten them. The dopamine that once danced through her veins begins to dry. She doesn't just age, she changes. Her brain chemistry rewires itself, her priorities shift, her sense of self trembles. And yet, everyone acts surprised. We call it a midlife crisis, as if it's just a mood swing, but it's not. It's an existential earthquake. The woman who once glowed with purpose now searches for something else, something invisible but vital. She used to know who she was, mother, wife, nurturer. Now she's none of those things in the same way. The reflection in the mirror is familiar, but the eyes staring back are searching for a name, for an identity that isn't borrowed from someone else's needs. The tragedy is that this transformation doesn't come from vanity, it comes from invisibility. She doesn't want to be young again, she just wants to feel alive again. And for the man watching her, it feels like betrayal, but it isn't. It's biology colliding with meaning, time whispering, "Who are you?" when no one's looking. It's a question that terrifies her, but she won't say it aloud. Instead, she'll buy new clothes, change her hair, take selfies under golden light, trying to prove to herself that she still exists in the eyes of the world. That's the invisible shift nobody talks about. Not aging, not rebellion. Just a woman realizing that her reflection no longer remembers her name. Every woman has a secret conversation with her mirror. For 20 years, it was a friend, a soft, glowing accomplice that confirmed her worth each morning. Compliments from strangers echoed there, reflections of desire disguised as approval. But at 40, the mirror changes its tone. It doesn't flatter, it questions. The eyes looking back aren't the same ones that once made men stop mid-sentence. There are stories now written into the skin, chapters of love, sacrifice, and sleepless nights. But society doesn't read those stories, it only grades the cover. From the moment she was a teenager, the world taught her the same lesson. Be pretty, be wanted, be chosen. And she learned it well. Every compliment was a hit of validation. Every gaze was proof she existed. For 2 decades, she didn't need to ask who she was. She was whoever the world adored. But the cruel trick of time is that it takes away the very thing it once rewarded her for. She still looks good, but good is no longer magnetic. The attention that used to arrive effortlessly now comes as a courtesy. You look amazing for your age. Harmless words that slice deep, because hidden inside that compliment is the truth she fears most, for your age. And so begins the war, not against wrinkles, but against erasure. The mirror becomes an opponent. The phone becomes her stage. She angles the light, studies, filters, memorizes, poses that reclaim some part of her past self. To her husband, these rituals seem trivial, maybe even vain, but for her, they're survival. They are proof that she still matters in a world that only listens to beauty that's loud. It's not just about vanity, it's identity collapse. Imagine being told your whole life that your value is the way people see you. Then one morning, you wake up, and the world looks past you like smoke. The woman who once turned heads now turns invisible. Inside her, something cracks. The mask of certainty slips. The mother, the wife, the dependable woman everyone leaned on begins to crave something else. Recognition. Not just from her husband, not from her children, but from the world that used to orbit her. And here lies the tragedy. Her worth was built on a foundation of sand. The moment the tide of youth recedes, everything starts to sink. She tries to hold on. New clothes, new skincare, new smiles. But none of it changes the whisper in the mirror. Who are you if no one desires you? It's a cruel question, but it's also honest. Because in that question lies the truth she's never faced, that maybe she's never truly seen herself at all. It starts with something small, a compliment from a stranger, a lingering glance, a message that lands differently, and suddenly, it's like a switch has been flipped inside her. That spark she thought was gone forever flickers back to life. A feeling she hasn't felt in years. Excitement, danger, possibility rushes through her veins like electricity. Her mind knows it's nothing, but her heart doesn't care. This is the hunger nobody warns you about. Not hunger for love, but for proof. Proof that she's still seen, still wanted, still capable of stirring someone's desire. It's not about cheating. It's about chasing the version of herself she lost, somewhere between carpools and grocery lists. The tragedy, the validation she once received freely has become a rare currency. At 20, attention was air. At 40, it's oxygen. One compliment now means more than 10 years of her husband's devotion. Not because she stopped loving him, but because his love is obligated. He's her husband. He has to think she's beautiful. The stranger at the coffee shop doesn't. His attention feels chosen, and chosen attention hits like a drug. The dopamine rush is real, measurable, addictive. Neuroscientists call it reward reinforcement. But in the language of emotion, it's just the sound of her fading confidence gasping for air. Meanwhile, her husband watches this silent transformation with confusion. He's faithful, constant, predictable, and that's the problem. He represents safety, routine, gravity. The stranger represents the opposite. Risk, surprise, the illusion of possibility. Her brain, rewired by time, begins to crave that chaos again. Because chaos feels like youth. This is how it happens everywhere. The devoted mother of 3 begins replying to messages that make her blush. The loyal wife starts dressing for someone she doesn't name. The laughter that once filled the kitchen now belongs to someone else on a screen. She tells herself it's innocent, but deep down, she knows she's feeding an ache that can't be satisfied. It's not evil, it's desperation. Desperation to feel alive again in a body that has been labeled past its prime. I'm the cruelest part. The validation never lasts. Each new compliment fades faster than the last. The drug demands higher doses, riskier behavior, bigger thrills. What starts as a text becomes a secret. What begins as attention becomes obsession. And when she looks in the mirror now, she doesn't see herself, she sees a battlefield. The war between the woman she was, the woman she pretends to be, and the woman she fears she's becoming. Because underneath all the validation, beneath the likes, the messages, the stolen glances, there's a quiet terror whispering from deep inside. What if I'm no longer enough, even for myself? Time doesn't announce its arrival. It just takes things quietly. A softness here, a spark there, a fading in the corners of the eyes. And then one day, she notices that men no longer turn their heads, that compliments now sound polite instead of passionate. Society doesn't prepare her for that silence, it just keeps whispering lies. You're only as valuable as you look, so she fights back. Not against men, not even against aging itself, but against the feeling of vanishing. The war begins subtly: new skincare routines, gym memberships, hair treatments. But soon it escalates. The battle becomes ritual. Diets, filters, injections, anything that can delay the inevitable. Every purchase, every selfie, every "you look great" comment becomes ammunition in her private war against time. The irony is that she's not trying to be beautiful again, she's trying to matter again. Because in a culture that worships youth, a woman in her 40s becomes a ghost in plain sight. No one told her that the attention she mistook for affection would vanish once her glow dimmed. No one warned her that when the spotlight moves on, the silence can sound like death. But the world keeps pushing her forward, promising rebirth through rebellion. Her friends, many of them divorced, reborn under the banner of "you deserve better," become her chorus. They tell her she's brave, that she's reclaiming herself, that she's finally living. Every glass of wine becomes a sermon, every selfie, a declaration of freedom. But what she doesn't see is that they're all fighting the same invisible war, each trying to outrun the same clock. Social media feeds the flames. The algorithm studies her panic and feeds it back to her transformation stories. Glow-ups, women who started over and found love again. She scrolls through filtered lives, comparing her reality to someone else's fantasy. Each swipe deepens the wound. Meanwhile, her husband feels the shift but doesn't understand it. He offers affection, she calls it routine. He plans a weekend getaway, she calls it predictable. What he doesn't see is that she's no longer measuring moments by love, but by feeling. The thrill she's chasing isn't connection, it's resurrection. The philosophers say that all human suffering comes from resisting impermanence, and she is resisting with everything she has. She cannot accept that beauty fades, that youth passes, that some doors close forever. So she turns her back on wisdom and runs toward illusion, because illusion still flirts, still smiles, still whispers that she has time. But time never loses. It only watches patiently as she trades peace for panic, family for fantasy, truth for temporary comfort. And when the dust settles, she'll realize it was never a war against time at all. It was a war against herself, and time was only the mirror reflecting back what she refused to see. By the time the storm reaches its center, logic no longer matters. What began as curiosity now feels like destiny. The woman who once lived for her family's rhythm begins moving to a new, private pulse, one built on dopamine, nostalgia, and escape. The phone becomes a portal. Every message is a spark. Every scroll a reminder that the world outside her marriage still sees her. It doesn't happen overnight. First comes the nostalgia. The past suddenly feels golden, her youth rewritten as freedom, her mistakes now recast as adventures. She starts pulling out old photos, lingering on faces that once made her heart race. She says she's just reminiscing, but her smile gives her away. She's not looking at who she was, she's grieving the woman she can never be again. Then come the new companions, the divorced friends, the self-help quotes, the empowered communities whispering the same seductive mantra. You deserve better. It sounds harmless, even noble, but it's a drug, disguised as wisdom. The more she listens, the more her marriage starts to feel like a cage. The stability she once cherished begins to taste like confinement, and the digital world becomes her accomplice. The algorithm knows her better than anyone. It shows her women her age who took control, who started over, who found themselves again. Each story feels like a mirror, reflecting back, not her reality, but her fantasy. The idea of leaving no longer feels unthinkable. It feels inevitable. Her husband senses it. The sudden silence at dinner, the new me time, the late-night smiles at messages he's not allowed to see. When he asks what's wrong, she calls him paranoid. When he apologizes for things he didn't do, she says, "It's not you, it's me." And for once, she's telling the truth. It really is her. Her brain, her chemistry, her identity unraveling under the weight of change she doesn't understand. Psychologists call it identity displacement. Philosophers call it the crisis of impermanence. But for her, it's simpler. She feels invisible, and invisibility hurts more than betrayal. And the saddest part? She doesn't want to destroy her life. She's trying to save it. She believes if she just makes one bold move, one radical choice, she can outrun the emptiness clawing at her chest. But in her search for liberation, she confuses freedom with escape. She doesn't see the collateral damage: the husband rewriting his days around silence, the children learning to live between homes, the echo of a house that no longer smells like family. She thinks she's finding herself, but what she's really doing is fracturing everything she built, trying to hold on to a feeling that can't be held. And when it's all over, when the thrill fades and the mirror grows cold, she'll realize too late that the thing she was trying to find was never lost. It was buried beneath the noise of everything she thought she needed to feel alive. When the dust finally settles, she tells herself it was worth it. The long nights, the tears, the arguments, the leaving. She believes she's been reborn, that this is what freedom feels like. The air tastes different, lighter, full of promise. But beneath that promise is a silence that doesn't go away. At first, it feels like triumph. The first dinner out alone, the new clothes, the texts from friends saying, "You're glowing." But glow fades fast when it's powered by adrenaline. Reality catches up slowly, through the little things: the empty house, the echo of her children's laughter now trapped in memory, the cold side of the bed that never warms. She scrolls through the same social media that once fueled her courage, but now the stories feel different. The women she admired look lonely. The brave captions sound rehearsed. Behind every post of newfound freedom, she senses the quiet ache of regret. Because the truth is, starting over at 40 isn't glamorous, it's exhausting. The men she thought were waiting to adore her aren't the saviors she imagined. The compliments are fleeting, transactional. The conversations are shallow. She begins to realize that the attention she fought so hard to regain doesn't equal connection, it's noise without meaning. Her ex-husband has learned to move in silence. He's the same man, but heavier, quieter. He never expected to become the villain in a story he didn't write. The children adapt faster than she does, but their eyes tell the truth: love, mixed with confusion, loyalty split between two worlds. She tells herself they'll understand someday, that she did this for her happiness, that they'll thank her when they're older, but they won't. Children don't care about their parents' happiness. They care about stability, about coming home to the same heartbeat every night. And that's the cost she never calculated: the quiet, irreversible fracture of a family that once felt eternal. The myth of liberation promised that happiness waits on the other side of courage. But what it doesn't say is that courage without wisdom is chaos. That sometimes the chains you think you're breaking are the ones keeping you grounded. She sits alone now, the TV humming in the background, her phone lighting up with messages from friends still chasing the same illusion. And, in the reflection of the black screen, she catches a glimpse of the woman she used to be: gentle, tired, loved. For a moment, she wishes she could go back. Not to her youth, not to her beauty, but to the peace of being enough without needing the world to clap for it. But the world doesn't clap for peace. It claps for drama, for escape, for the illusion of rebirth. And so, she posts another photo, smiling like she means it, while the echo of her choices lingers in the quiet space between who she was and who she pretends to be. In the end, when all the noise dies down, what remains is silence, an unfiltered kind that strips away every story she's told herself. She looks around at the life she built, the one she left, and the one she tried to create, and realizes they all share the same ghost. Time. It wasn't her husband she was running from. It wasn't the monotony, the routines, or the years. She was running from the reflection that kept whispering, "You're not who you used to be." And that whisper, soft but relentless, became the soundtrack of her rebellion. But time is undefeated. You can't filter it, flirt with it, or bargain with it. It only asks for one thing: acceptance. And she refused to give it. The tragedy isn't that she aged, it's that she mistook aging for disappearing. In her fear of fading, she became the architect of her own erasure. She destroyed everything that proved she had mattered: her home, her love, her history, trying to prove she still could. And when the last thrill burned out, when the validation dried up, she was left facing the one truth she'd avoided all along. That feeling wanted isn't the same as being loved. The husband, the one who watched her unravel, learned his own painful truth: that you can give someone everything: loyalty, stability, devotion, and still lose them to a ghost they're chasing inside their own mind. He was never competing with another man. He was competing with time, and with the version of her that time refused to return. For her, regret comes quietly, disguised as reflection. Sometimes it hits when she drives past their old home and sees the curtains drawn. Sometimes it visits when her children call their father first, or when no one texts back after midnight. It's in those small, empty moments that she understands freedom wasn't what she needed. It was meaning, and meaning was something she'd already built, long before she tore it down. There's a final kind of wisdom that comes to those who survive the fire they set themselves. It isn't loud or glorious, it's humble, almost sacred. It's the understanding that love is not meant to keep you young, it's meant to grow old with you. That validation fades, but truth endures. That there is a kind of beauty in surrendering to time instead of waging war against it. She doesn't say these things out loud. She posts less, scrolls less, laughs softer. She's learning, finally, to be seen by no one and still exist. And maybe that's what all of this was really about: the war not between man and woman, husband and wife, or even youth and age. It was the ancient war between the human heart and time itself. And in that war, no one wins Only those who learn to bow to time with grace ever find peace.